Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg for this one once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to throw my catchphrase in on the channel there for you when I can. But for this review we're returning to a brewery who you've seen me review many beers from before. These guys are probably one of the best known Swedish breweries and I think this must be review number 35 on the channel from these guys. So for this one then we are going to return to Stigbergets Bryggeri, who are of course very well respected when it comes to the New England hazy style IPAs, and today we're having a taste of the Killer Pale. As the name suggests, this one is a New England style pale ale coming in at 5.5% ABV, and this beer was released as part of the Tillfälligt assortment on the 25th of August 2020 through in Stigbergets here in Sweden. So yeah, this one, hopefully it should be quite an interesting beer. This is one that I was kind of in two minds about buying. The main reason is that 99% of the beer that I drink in total is reviewed here on the channel. It's very rare actually that I drink beer outside of the YouTube videos unless I'm meeting some of the other beer tubers or going to a brew pub, or if I'm in like Germany or Czech or Belgium or something like that, because the kind of good classic beers are really easily available there. So yeah, I don't drink much beer outside of the channel, and for me beer is all about the kind of foodie element. It's the whole kind of pleasure of tasting sort of thing that I really like. So when it comes to that, I'd always usually go for a regular IPA above like a pale ale or a session IPA. That's why you don't see so many pale ales and session IPAs reviewed on the channel actually, but there have been a few beers that have made me think about that recently, notably the Niblina from Gothenburg Brewery. I think that's one of the best IPAs generally that those guys have done. But the other thing that made me think about this beer, there's two things that made me change my mind about this one. One of them was that this beer is supposed to be the sequel to the Wonder Ale, which was a collaboration that Stigbergets did with Brew by Numbers from London back in like February or March. But the second thing is just that I love whales. Fascinating creatures, honestly. I could never be bothered with biology all that much at school because of the amount of reading and facts you had to remember and things like that. I've got a more mathematical brain and I like concept and ideas and playing with them. But there's certain animals I think are really kind of fascinating, like the big cats for example, the great apes. But whales I think are just they're something else. Their brain is that large that humans, we can't actually comprehend some of the levels of thinking that whales have. And they've got the whole kind of social thing in there as well. Different groups of whales have different languages and they can't, different groups can't understand each other properly and things like that. I think whales are fascinating creatures. It's probably one of my favourite animals actually, along with elephants. The whole theory of a kind of genetic memory in elephants when they've got their big family meetups and things. I think that whole idea is fascinating, and nature really is something that I've always kind of had a little bit of a love for. I really love learning about different kinds of animals and stuff like that. But yeah, I was never one for really studying biology that much. I think it's more of a kind of leisure. Learning about nature has always been a bit of a leisure thing for me. But yeah, while kind of rambling there, but yeah, the main reason you're seeing this beer on the channel is because I love whales. So there you go. So yeah, and whales in the beer sense are always pretty good as well. But yeah, 5.5% New England Pale Ale, this one. Really curious to see what this has in store for us. Hopefully it is as good as the Wonder Ale that we had a couple of months back. So let's see how we get on with this one then. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stigbergets Bryggeri before. You will see more beer from these guys in the very near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stigbergets Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Stigbergets Bryggeri, as I've told you many a time before, are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg on the west coast of Sweden, and the company was founded by Nils Hugkrantz and Richard Simonsson. So these guys own two bars that share the one kitchen. This is the Bar Kino and the Hagabjörns Cafe, and they can be found on Linnegatan in the city, and they opened back in 2007. The building in which these two places are located is actually an independent cinema, and if you want to have a little look at it, you can check out my out and about video that I did when I think that was done maybe about 6 months ago now. You can have a little look at that. In fact, it's actually more than that. I think it might have been before the turn of the year, so yeah, it's maybe about 9 months or so ago now that I was in Gothenburg. But you can go and check out my out and about video there. And the Bar Kino Hagabjörns Cafe, they are kind of the unofficial tap rooms of Stigbergets Bryggeri and also OO Brewing in Gothenburg. And there's some really interesting films on in the cinema upstairs, so go and check it out. Enjoy an evening there. It is very, very nice. But originally the idea that they had was to brew a few beers that they could sell in the bars, but this led to them kegging the beer and selling it to other pubs, and eventually they began bottling the beers back in November of 2014. The original beers that they were making were mainly English and German styles, but they started expanding into the more hoppy American beer styles, and the original head brewer that they had was Ole Anderson, who is one of the co-owners of OO Brewing, and he was the one who developed, you know, the Amazing Haze, the GBG Beer Week beer for 2016, and also at the same time the Narangi for his own company, OO. Those are probably 3 of the 4 beers that I would consider to be the cult classic Swedish New England IPAs, along with the New Sweden IPA from Stigbergets Bryggeri. But shortly after he left, I think it was 2017, if I remember rightly, he was replaced by Barnaby Struve from Three Floyds for a couple of months, but he has since moved on as well. Soon after this, they moved to a new brewery at Parktehalarna, where they were brewing 5,000 litre batches at a time, and they've also been working on some sour beers more recently as well. But they started selling their beers in the 440ml cans as opposed to the 330ml bottles. You do see the classic beers that I had reviewed for you recently, the sort of classic series, the Trippel and the Barley Wine. They do still release some beers in bottles, but most of the beers are released in the 440 cans, although some of the collaboration ones, I think most of them actually, and some of the sour beers are released in the little kind of thin and tall 330ml cans. But they now have a brew team of Ollie Banks, who used to work for Beavertown, and also Lucas Monraid, who used to work for All In Brewing, one of the numerous gypsy breweries around Gothenburg. But very recently they've moved to a new brewery in Ringen, as of summer 2020 this year, and they're basically considering brewing lambic beer there now, from what I understand. They want to get a cool ship and kind of set this whole thing up, but apparently there's the possibility for them to set up a bar there and to have swimming facilities as well. So they were saying they want to create a whole kind of experience brewery. Apparently the capacity of this brewery is a little bit less than the one they had at Parktehalarna, but they think it's a kind of better space for them to have, you know, a bar and a sort of restaurant and things like that. So hopefully that opens up soon and I can go and check it out maybe next summer or something like that, who knows. But recently as well, Stigbergets have also opened up their own folk oil shop, so I will need to go and check that out at one point. I know there is a shop like that in Stockholm as well, and I forget the name of it, but yeah, a cool idea. For those of you who don't know, watching outside of Sweden, in Sweden, anything above 3.5% ABV is not allowed to be sold in the supermarket. Then it has to go into Systembolaget, which is the nationally owned alcohol store. So yeah, quite cool that they've got a little folk oil shop there. I do hope that, you know, there's been talk of the Swedish laws changing so that breweries can sell their beer on site, sort of thing. So hopefully that is something that they do, because I know that's something that is allowed in Finland these days. Actually, breweries can sell direct to the customers. But yeah, as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 85 different kinds of beer, and you know that's expanding month on month. Of course, you will be seeing more beers from Stigbergets in September actually, so yeah, keep an eye out for those. But yeah, as always with my reviews then, I hope you've kind of enjoyed the little history part. But yeah, if you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate page to learn more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's have a little go at this beer then and see how we get on. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open up there. There you can see the killer whale just kind of having a wee laugh, as they always do. You know, they do like to play with their food, so maybe he's been playing with his food. I've seen videos of them like throwing seals about and things like that. They can be quite mean creatures in certain ways. They're not usually the gentle giants that you see it's SeaWorld and things like that, and you know, SeaWorld I think is incredibly cruel to these creatures. You know, the car park and stuff in SeaWorld is bigger than the actual enclosure that they've got for these animals, but it's horrible stuff actually how they're treated there anyway. But anyway, yeah, 5.5% New England Pale Ale this one. Without further ado, let's get it out and get on with the tasting then. Really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. Yeah, if I remember rightly, yeah, the blue whale, the largest mammal and the largest animal on Earth actually. Pretty damn impressive. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting. So yeah, looks pretty good. So yeah, as you can see with this one, oh, I thought I'd clean. I washed this one just before. That's annoying. I washed this one just before and it's got all the kind of carbonation sticking to the side of the glass. Ah well, it just happens sometimes. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, it's poured a lovely kind of bright yellow colour. This one, it looks, you know, for 5.5%, it's a hell of a lot more hazy than you might expect. Obviously, as you go up the alcohol scale, you've got more wheat and oats and things in them. In these beers, as you go up it. So yeah, this one is pretty surprisingly hazy for a 5.5%er. You can see there was about a half finger of a frothy white head, and this one is a little bit more kind of bumpy and bubbly in fairness compared to some of the other ones. But yeah, quite a few carbonation bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. I think the glass must have had a little bit of dust on it or something like that. But as I say, I did clean it. I did wash it like right before I did the review, so don't know what that's all about. But yeah, it looks pretty nice, this one. As I say, if I put my fingers behind the glass, there is a nice little bit of haze to this one. So yeah, one of the kind of paler looking New Englandy style beers that I've had recently. Looks a little bit like a mango juice, you know, a mango maybe pineapple juice kind of combination, this one. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about the appearance of this beer when you consider what style it is, a New England Pale Ale. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Oh yeah, this is quite nice. I mean, straight away with this one, you know, it's the malt base. It's got a little bit of wheatiness to it. You get a lot of the pale malt out of this one, I think. There is a wee touch of a kind of oaty note to it. Does it have oats in it, this one? I'm sure it probably will. Yeah, malted barley, oats and wheat. So yeah, it's your standard kind of New England pale base, but to me it strikes me as being a little bit more kind of pale malty rather than anything else. It does have a little touch of a kind of biscuity sweetness to it, like a McVitie's Digestive biscuity sweetness. But yeah, I like how this one goes together. So thumbs up to Stigbergets for how the aroma in this one goes together. The malt base is quite nicely done. But yeah, definitely smells a hell of a lot lighter than some of the other IPAs and double IPAs and stuff like that you're going to get. The one thing that surprises me about this, because I have commented in some IPA reviews recently, is that some of these yeasts that are often used in the New England IPAs these days, they can come across really like farmhousey and grainy and woody and things, and I've always wondered if it's the wheat, you know, the bigger presence of wheat or the bigger presence of oats that really covers that up when you go into some of the double IPAs and stronger IPAs and stuff like that. But the interesting thing about this one is, this beer, I don't really find it has that kind of farmhousey sort of element to it, that grainy, woody, vegetally, herbal type thing. This one doesn't really have that. It comes across as very, very smooth in terms of its malt base and yeasty things. The yeasty characters always come out with the malt base, I find. So yeah, it's got a lovely smooth bready backbone to it, white bread definitely, a little bit of a kind of biscuity, grainy character as well. But yeah, I think this one is really, really nicely done in terms of aroma and malty side of things. It strikes me as very nice, I have to say. I like the little touch of sweetness and biscuitiness that it has. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, so yeah, there is a little touch of earthiness to this one. Very smooth earthiness, I have to say. Wee touch of herbal character as well, some nice floral aromaticity, but there's also a wee touch of a kind of grassy character coming out of this one as well. So yeah, I do like how that goes together in this one. The green side of the hops is also very nice actually. It smells like quite a nice, light, slightly zesty beer. On the fruity side of things, it's mainly leaning towards a kind of soft, tropical element. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is like Simcoe and a bit of Victoria's Secret or something that's in this one. Could be Idaho 7 right enough as well. It's got some of those elements to it. But yeah, there's a wee teeny bit of passion fruit in there, but mainly for me it's leaning towards the kind of softer mangoes a little bit of, you know, that apricot papaya type thing. That's the main kind of thing that you're getting out of this. Maybe a wee bit of pineapple as well, in fairness. Yeah, there's a wee touch of a kind of zestiness to it, a little bit of a zestiness, kind of grassy zestiness, but yeah, otherwise, you know, it looks, it comes across really nicely in terms of the aroma. So yeah, it's a nice smelling pale ale, this one. Take a little bit of time to appreciate the aroma before you taste the beer, but that's what we're going to do now. So this one is the Killer Pale, 5.5% pale ale. This one apparently a continuation of the idea of the Wonder Ale that was produced with Brew by Numbers back earlier this year. So let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte Skål. Yeah, I mean, this one for me, it's certainly got plenty of flavour, this one. Certainly has plenty of flavour. I mean, my first observation that I would say about this is it's lovely, quite smooth and quite crisp beer. So yeah, probably in fairness, I think the pale ales, when it comes to the New England side of things, probably my perception of the pale ales, in fairness, comes a lot from the West Coasty side of things, because I did, you know, back in the day I would have drunk, you know, the Dead Pony Club from Brewdog, but I probably would have gone for the IPA, and the Hardcore IPA was always one of my favourite beers that Brewdog did. So yeah, probably a lot of my kind of attitude, if you like, towards the pale ales come from the West Coast side of things. So I guess I have to kind of bear that in mind going forward, because in fairness, I do think that the New England IPAs, relatively speaking, I think the New England IPAs are a bit closer to their big brothers than the West Coast pale ales are. So yeah, I think that's definitely a fair statement to make. Yeah, the New England pale ales are definitely closer to the big brothers than the West Coast pale ales were, and this does pack a fair bit of flavour to it, in fairness. So yeah, it really does just strike me as a slightly lighter, crisper, but at the same time very, very smooth kind of version of a New England IPA. I mean, when it's Stigbergets, we know that this brewery are very, very capable with this sort of style, so it's not surprising that they've pulled off a solid pale ale with this one. So yeah, thumbs up to Stigbergets for this. It's another very, very solid beer, and I think it is worth trying this one. So yeah, kind of glad that I got this now, I have to say, losing one of my moustache hairs there. But yeah, it's a nice one, this. So thumbs up to Stigbergets once again. So yeah, it does have a good bit of bite to it, which is nice as well for a pale ale. I think that's one of the key things. You've probably got to use your wheat wisely in these beers, just to give them a bit of bite and give them a bit of boldness. So yeah, almost, it does actually taste as if it's dry hopped quite a bit, this one. You do get a little bit of that dustiness around the edge of the palate. But yeah, let's break down the flavour of this one then. So straight away with this beer you can feel that pale malty quality, that blankets the middle of your tongue. If you go towards the back third of your palate there, it's got a good little bit of a kind of wheaty bitiness to it, which I think is which I think is really interesting. You know, it does get a bit of, it's got a stronger kind of more bitey character towards the back of the palate there, which is nice. But yeah, as you come further forward from that into the middle of the palate, you can feel it just smoothing out a little bit. You start to get a more kind of crisp, white bready quality. Then as you move towards the kind of front half of that middle third of the tongue, it does have a bit more of a kind of oaty creaminess in that sense. You will feel this beer, the middle of your palate does dry out a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. It does get a little touch more grainy, and then there's a wee bit of a biscuity sweetness just in the centre of the palate there as well, which is quite nice actually. So yeah, I like how that goes together with this one. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty damn solid in that sense. It does, I think the more that you drink of this, it does build up a little bit more sweetness in the middle of the palate, a little bit more of a kind of biscuity sweetness. And I do like that about this one. I have to say, this is a beer that really kind of grows on me the more that I drink of it. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate, there's a wee touch of earthiness out of the beer. But as you move further forward along the side of the tongue, it does have a good little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity to it, and it's actually quite kind of spicy. There might even be a little bit of dankness to this one, and that does make me wonder about the hops in this. I do wonder, because I kind of learned from the 100 series from OO Brewing. They did the 100 Idaho 7. Idaho 7 can have a good little bit of spiciness to it. Simcoe, in fairness, can have it as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a Simcoe Idaho 7 combination that's going on in here. There are other things it could be. It could be Galaxy, it could be Victoria's Secret, could be something like that. El Dorado is another option that it could be. I'm actually really not sure about this one. It's difficult to play a proper guess the hop with this beer. Yeah, there's a few things that it could be, but yeah, it's quite a tropically leaning pale ale. I think that's all you really need to know about that. Yeah, it's kind of tropically leaning, this one, definitely. But yeah, around the kind of front edge of the tongue there, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, on that front third of the palate, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters push their way out of the beer. So for me, this one has, it's got a little bit of that kind of stronger passion fruity note towards the back of the palate. As you move further forward there, it does develop more of a slightly mango-ish taste, but then in the kind of towards the front of the palate, you really get these lighter kind of apricot-y, papaya type notes coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, it's got a really interesting combination of flavours, in fairness, this beer. I really like how that how everything in this one just pieces together. So yeah, it's quite the tropical notes in this one are quite strong, and it's got quite a bit more passion fruit to it than you might expect from the aroma. You would expect this one maybe to be very, very soft and kind of quite juicy, but it does have a good bit of bite to it, this beer, both from the wheat and the passion fruit and some of the kind of big spicy notes actually. So I do like how this one, I do like how it goes together actually. It gets a thumbs up from me, this one. I think if you're going to do a pale ale like this, you do need it to have a bit of bite, and I think that's what Stigbergets have kind of pulled off quite well in this one. Because yeah, if the pale ale really was, if it wasn't quite as bold and bitey in its flavour, I think the pale ales, they'd sort of almost be rendered a bit pointless compared to the IPAs, in fairness. So I guess if you're comparing the IPA to the pale ale and stuff like that, I guess it's really a case of, do you want a kind of lighter and more bitey flavour, or do you want one that's a kind of balance between a big kind of smooth and thick kind of note? Because when you go up to the double IPAs, yes, some of them have got a bite, but usually those are the big, massive, thick, kind of boozy, creamy sort of thing. So I guess if you're choosing between, yeah, double IPA and pale ale, I guess, yeah, from the creamy, smooth end of the spectrum, it's the double IPA. From the lighter, bitier and crisper section of the spectrum will be the pale ale, and if you want something that's a bit of both, you go for the IPA. That's probably a good way to kind of sum it up. So yeah, I think this one does have a nice level of bitiness to it, and it keeps you interested in the style, in fairness. So yeah, thumbs up to Stigbergets again for another good pale ale here. Mouthfeel then, yeah, kind of mid-bodied. Carbonation is is relatively smooth in this one. It's got a good level of crispness to it, in fairness as well. It's got a little bit of a wet mouthfeel, which I really quite like. But yeah, in terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this one, I want to say this one's maybe, it's either 30 or 40 IBUs. I can't quite make up my mind on it. So it does have a little bit more of a kind of bolder bitiness to it. It's got a nice bit of a kind of smoother, it's got a little bit of a kind of smoother malty quality to it, a little bit of a biscuity sweetness, as I say, and some nice kind of tropically fruit notes to it as well. A nice little bit of a tropical fruit smoothness in there. But yeah, I like how this one, I do like how this one goes together. So thumbs up to to Stigbergets for this one. The Killer Pale, really nice and solid and bitey, but still quite crisp pale ale, this one. I think that's a good way to kind of sum it up. Fruity wise, definitely more tropical than citrusy in my mind. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stigbergets Bryggeri as well. We will return to these guys at some point very soon, but in the meantime, it was nice to review the killer pale for you, and I hope you guys enjoyed my take on this beer. So yeah, until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, Scott, make sure you check out Stigbergets Bryggeri if you haven't already. Many more reviews from these guys to come. Cheers.